When you choose to remake a game that is over 25 years old, as Monster World 4 is, you can choose to do it one of two ways. You can go down the route of being an absolute purist and maybe just updating some graphics so that it looks and feels and plays exactly like the original, but just bringing it to an audience that either appreciated the original or is looking for that hardcore retro experience. Or you can go from a complete ground-up remake where you bring everything up to modern-day technology standards and integrate quality of life features and improvements that mean that you're dragging something that might be viewed through rose-tinted glasses into modern-day technology with modern-day expectations. Wonder Boy Asha in Monster World is one of the rare unique cases where it straddles straight down the middle, ignoring both ends of the spectrum, and therefore, in my opinion, doesn't really scratch the itch perfectly for either, and I'll try and explain why. Wonder Boy Asha in Monster World is a 2D RPG with puzzle elements. You play as Asha, who is going to travel across 4 different elemental worlds with her little cute animal creature sidekick called a Papelugu, which I've probably butchered. But the idea is that you can equip this little creature and it allows you to double jump and glide and be used in kind of elemental puzzle solving. 25 years ago, this was quite impressive because it was mashing lots of things together. But nowadays, with modern day pixel art and indie games really dominating this kind of scene, you have to think of other ideas and ways of going about doing things to stand out from the crowd. And this is a problem that plagues Wonder Boy Asha in Monster World. It is perfectly serviceable and it is a really nice and fun and light game to play. But over the years, this kind of stuff has been redone in various different forms, so it makes it quite difficult for Wonder Boy Asha in Monster World to stand out from the crowd. This isn't helped by this straight down the middle route of not really pleasing either the purists or the newcomers. And I'll take the saving system as an example. In the original game, you would have something called the Sage of Save, and it was this little bearded guy who would be around at various points in the game, normally before bosses and halfway through levels, for you to save your progress at random at these like interval points. He's still present in this new remake game, but instead of him being a save for you, he just chats about the fact that he's now redundant and kind of offers comical text for side story. But the game doesn't actually auto-save, which is the quality of life feature that I'd expect to be implemented from a ground-up remake. Instead, it still asks you to go into the menu and manually save, but now you can just save wherever you want. It's a weird halfway house that absolutely exemplifies everything that this game does. Unlike the recent Dragon's Trap remake that was done from the ground up, where you had painstaking visuals and really good frame-by-frame animation, Wonder Boy Asha in Monster World takes on a 3D cel-shaded approach, which feels like a top-end mobile game in some places, and in other places you can see detail has actually been done to the animation, most notably and weirdly on a bum shake when she opens up treasure chests. It feels like they've then gone for a nice cutesy remake, but then not necessarily put in all of the effort to make sure that it hits that top end of the tier, again gliding through the middle. The same thing can be said for Asha's moveset, and in particular the boss battles. Asha moves perfectly fine, but she's anodyne. There's no personality to it. She just jumps and moves in a very steady and static rate. While she has the Papelugu, she can double jump, but you have to kind of attach it and it's awkward, and it's not like you just get the level up and when you've got it and you then have the double jump available at all times. It just feels a bit awkward and clumsy. When it comes to the boss battles, they're almost all cheesable, and what I mean by that is that they have a very specific regimented moveset that you can just step an extra step back from and then just fire things at them and you'll be fine. And that seems like a really poor way to go around boss battles, particularly on this game early on. They get slightly less cheesable as they go through the game, but some of the early bosses are terrible. Then we have the music, which actually for me was a highlight. Most of the music revolves around the same central theme, just dressed up in different guises, which is exactly what the original was like. We've got the same here, but it moves it forward into a kind of PS2 era style of MIDI sounds. There's no lush reimaginings, there are no dramatic arrangements. It's safe, but it works. And that's kind of what I want to say about Wonder Boy, Asha and Monster World all the way through. Everything works. Everything is serviceable. It just didn't really scratch the itch of someone going back and replaying this game and thinking, yeah, this is the love and affection that I remember for this game kind of in a modern day reimagining, because it didn't reimagine. It kind of polished it up, but didn't fundamentally make the things that you kind of take for granted in a modern day RPG/2D puzzle platformer that you just simply didn't have 25 years ago. And I don't know if that makes sense for a lot of people, but it just feels fundamentally empty. Now, I've spent the last 6 minutes being quite pessimistic about the game, but fundamentally this does play perfectly fine. It's just that I needed to get across to you that this doesn't quite scratch the itch for the purist, nor for the newcomer either, and so it's very difficult to know who the audience for this game is. There are moments where puzzles really work nicely. There are moments where you can enjoy the music and the atmosphere and the graphics, and it all comes together in a glorious, popping visual feast, but those things come few and far between and are set out for very specific set pieces, and then everything else falls into what feels like a premium mobile experience rather than something that has been lavishly redesigned from the ground up for consoles as well. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a terrible experience. It just means that I'm not sure any of the audiences who I thought would be interested in this are going to feel fully satisfied. A written review will be over on higherplayinggames.com. I think if you're interested in this from an experience from a fresh perspective, I would probably recommend The Cursed Kingdom over this as a really great starter point, because it integrates everything that's modern into the Wonder Boy/Monster World series. What I would also say as well is that I personally preferred the Dragon's Trap in terms of remakes from the ground up, but it is a different style of gameplay, so kind of have a little nose around before you make your decisions. Any questions or comments, leave them down below, and I'll catch you again on another video on Higher Playing Games. Bye-bye. Higher Playing Games is part of the Higher Playing Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplaying-network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.